Oops, I need to say that again. You press record. That's okay. So anyway, when I talk about Peabody High School in Petersburg, Virginia, and I say that it is the oldest public black high school, I'm not discounting Armstrong High School, which was started in 1865 as a, which was supported, funded by the Freedmen's Bureau. And so that's the distinction. Uh, the Peabody idea was conceived about 1868, 1869, and it started in 1870. The Armstrong High School concept was established in about 1865, so clearly they're older. But Peabody was, and I say allegedly because I don't have all the records, but the reason that I say allegedly the oldest is because Paul Laurence Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C. professes to be the oldest public black high school in the United States. And I did a bit of research. When you go to their website, you actually see that Paul Laurence Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C. Well, they were conceived in 1870, just like Peabody was conceived. The idea was conceived in 1870. But here's what I found out: the Paul Laurence Dunbar concept was conceived, created in November of 1870. The Peabody concept was actually conceived before 1870, about 1869. And the reason that they use January as their start date is because they had to renovate a building, and it took them until January of 1870 to start classes. So uh, I think that matters because you always want to tell the truth when you tell the truth about history. And after I found that information out, I said, well, that's very good. And I actually found the information from Washington, D.C. Public Schools. So they sent me a citation indicating that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start my brief presentation. This was a presentation, one of many that I've been giving. Share my screen, share. And then I'm going to put this up. And uh, my presentations are all entitled When We Were Young, Gifted, and Black, and Our Story Perspective of Peabody High School, 1870 to 1970. And in this particular one that I gave 2 weeks ago on February the 4th, it was about outstanding Peabody alumni, outstanding academic curriculum, and outstanding academic connections. And so that's me, right? And I always say, this is what I talked about on October 24th of last year. I talked about the significance of Peabody High School. And I'm going to go through this because I know I only have about 15 minutes or so. On November the 9th, I talked about the repurposing of Peabody High School located in Petersburg, Virginia. On December the 19th, I talked about the significant alumni of Peabody High School and their contributions to the larger community. And on that Sunday, I propose to talk about the greatest confirmation of the national historic significance of Peabody High School and the connections of Peabody High School and the historic First Baptist Church, Harrison Street, Petersburg. That's where the first school classrooms were in the church. The greatest connections of Peabody High School to the church that I attend, St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, because our third priest of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, a white former Confederate military Army major who worked with Robert E. Lee, he was actually the very first principal of Peabody High School, and the alumni, and also the connections to Virginia State University. So I ask a couple of questions, and I want you just to think about it. We can allow others to do all of these D things to us when it comes to reporting our story. And in my presentation, I always try to find all the D's. You can defame our story. We can allow others to denigrate or deny or disparage or dissolve or divert our story. or we can direct and document and deliver our own story. And I'm very happy that Monica is here presenting this platform so that we can do that. And I ask you to be mindful of the fact that when it comes to our education, we had to petition or ask permission to be educated. We had to ask permission. We had to follow laws to be educated. And of course, we were subject to theory. So when people talk about critical race theory, it's a fact that it was theorized that people who look like us couldn't be educated the same way as other people. So we had to petition for the right to receive public education. We had to ask permission for the right to receive public education. We had to abide by law prohibited to us to receive publication. And we were impacted by a theory that impacted public education. I don't know if you've heard of the Dovel Act, Dovell Act. That was an act invoked by the state legislature of Virginia. I don't know how early it started, it ended during the days of civil rights, where if a Black person wanted to go to a school like UVA, for instance, as a matter of fact, I had a cousin, my grandmother's cousin, she went to St. Paul's College, located in Lawrenceville, Virginia, if you're familiar with that, graduated at the top of her class, and she wanted to go to UVA for graduate school to get a master's degree in elementary education because she wanted to teach first grade. Well, she applied, and the state of Virginia said, no, hell no, go to hell no, you're not coming here, no. But we're thankful to take your daddy's tax dollars that the state of Virginia charges him so that we can use them. But you can't come here. But you know what? We will pay you to go to New York University. We will pay your travel to New York University, your stipend to live, your housing, your tuition. We'll pay for your books. We'll pay for everything, but you're not coming to UVA. So my cousin Mary went to New York University, and she got her master's degree in elementary education, and then she taught in White Plains, New York, for a number of years, and then moved back to Petersburg. So the reason that I say that is because contrary to what the candidate and/or Republican for the Republican nominee for president says, both Nikki and Timmy, that we have always lived and will always live in a racist America and Virginia and Petersburg, but the struggle continues. And so here's what I want to do. I'm not going to risk clicking on this link, but I'm going to go down here because this one is already set and it was so good. This is about 2 minutes. This is about 3 minutes, but you've got to hear this if you haven't heard it.
Country.
Let me take off my hat. A lot of politicians make the ridiculous argument that
America is not.
First, let me say, can you hear that? Were you able to hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that the technology was working. Okay, here we go. Please enjoy this denial of the truth. I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
A racist country.
But Nikki Haley goes one step farther.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1776, 41 of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence were slave owners.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1788, the U.S. Constitution counted black slaves as only 3/5 of a person.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1857, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Dred Scott and all other black people were not citizens of the United States.
We've never been a racist
In
country.
1861, Nikki Haley's own state of South Carolina declared war on the Union to defend slavery.
We've never been a racist
In
country.
1865, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated after pushing Congress to pass the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1915, the popular racist film The Birth of a Nation portrayed the KKK as heroes trying to defend white people from black oppression.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1921, white people in Oklahoma killed dozens of black people and destroyed a thriving black community in the Tulsa Race Massacre.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was lynched in Mississippi, and 42-year-old Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a city bus in Alabama.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1961, civil rights activist John Lewis was beaten at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma just for demanding the right to vote.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1963, 4 black girls were killed in a racist church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1968, Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1976, Ronald Reagan ran for president, blaming welfare queens for white people's problems.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1986, Reagan vetoed a bill to impose sanctions on the racist apartheid government in South Africa.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1988, George Bush ran for president with a racist campaign scaring white voters about a black inmate he dubbed Willie Horton.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1989, Donald Trump called for the execution of 5 black and Latino teenagers wrongly accused of raping a white woman in New York Central Park.
We've never been a racist country.
In 1992, an all-white jury acquitted 4 white police officers for the videotaped beating of Rodney King.
We've never been a racist country.
In 2005, President Bush took days to respond to Hurricane Katrina when it struck the mostly black city of New Orleans.
We've never been a racist country.
In 2011, Donald Trump launched a 5.5-year campaign questioning Barack Obama's birth certificate.
We've never been a racist country.
In 2015, a 21-year-old white supremacist in Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina murdered 9 black people at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston.
We've never been a racist country.
In 2020, Donald Trump tried to throw out millions of black votes in Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, and other cities.
We've never been a racist country.
And in 2024, white people in Iowa voted to return a twice-impeached, quadruple-indicted insurrectionist to public office.
We've never been a racist country.
Even in Nikki Haley's own life.
I faced racism when I was growing up.
But aside from that,
We've never been a racist country.
Okay, and hold on, and I've got to show you this one because this one is just too good. Hold on a second.
I recall walking into an office building just last year after being here for 5 years on the Capitol. And the officer looked at me with a little attitude and said, "The pen, I know. You, I don't. Show me your ID." I'll tell you, I was thinking to myself, either he thinks I'm committing a crime impersonating a member of Congress, or what? Well, I'll tell you that later that evening, I received a phone call from his supervisor apologizing for the behavior. Mr. President, that is at least the 3rd phone call that I've received from a supervisor or the chief of police since I've been in the Senate. So while I thank God I have not endured bodily harm, I have, however, felt the pressure applied by the scales of justice when they are slanted. I have felt the anger, the frustration, the sadness, and the humiliation that comes with feeling like you're being targeted for nothing more than being just yourself.
There, I just had to share that. Were you able to hear all of it and see all of it?
Yes.
Okay. I just had to share it to show its stark contrast to someone like Tim Scott saying America has never been a racist country when he alone stood there and talked about America being a racist country and what has happened to him. And I just don't know about politicians. I'll skip this one, but this is where I talked about the transitive property of inequality of real numbers and why it matters. And to put it in context, Peabody and Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, if Peabody was established as a public school in January of 1870, and Paul Laurence Dunbar High School was established as a public high school in November of 1870, then it stands to reason mathematically that Peabody High School was established before Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, and therefore Peabody High School is older. And so Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, I'm not taking anything away from it. They are perhaps the longest running public high school. If they claim to be the first, then they're not, but they're still open as an operational public high school. And the Peabody story, uh, here are the locations of what was Peabody High School. It started as the Colored High School, located at the First Baptist Church on Harrison Street in Petersburg, Virginia. Are any of you familiar with churches in Petersburg? Are any of you from Petersburg and you know First Baptist Church or you know St. Stephen's Episcopal Church? Okay. Well, there were four locations of Peabody High School. Again, the first being the location on Harrison Street, which was the second floor of a building connected to the First Baptist Church. And then the first Peabody building was located on Fillmore Street. The second Peabody building was located on South Jones Street. The third Peabody building was located on 725 Wesley Street. And the reason that Peabody took its name is because George Peabody, a philanthropist, gave money all over America to help create these schools for predominantly Black folk. And so the city of Petersburg said, well, we will name this school for Black people as Peabody High School because Black high schools in the segregated world were never named after locations. They were always named after people. And here's the marker that stands at the corner of Harrison Street and um, uh, Liberty Street in Petersburg, establishing the significance of Peabody High School. Uh,
Can I ask a question?
sure, you can.
Wait, I was wondering which of those buildings was the one that apparently caught fire and you all were having difficulty accessing currently to foster progress in restoration and preservation of the history.
Let me see if I have a picture of it. Okay, in this one I don't have a picture of it. I can bring it up. But the one that happened to was the Peabody building located on Wesley Street. And the building, what happened with Peabody was the building, the in 1870, Peabody became known as the Colored High School. 1873, it changed. 1874, it became Peabody High School. In 1970, Peabody High School ended, and it reverted to Peabody Junior High School. And when I was old enough, I went to Peabody Junior High School. My mother went to Peabody High School. She actually transferred over to Virginia State's campus, Monica, and graduated from D. Webster Davis High School, which is Davis Music Hall. She uh, graduated from there. My aunt graduated from Carver High School in Chesterfield County because she got married early. And my aunt stayed in Petersburg and graduated from the Peabody High School. But the building that you're talking about is the third building. There was the Jones Street building, which is the historic building. And then just around the corner from it is the Peabody building that you see now. And in 1970, it became Peabody Junior High School. Somewhere in 2000, it became Peabody Middle School. In 2017, the public school system closed its doors and gave it back to the city, and the city just allowed it to crumble. And it could be very useful. It could be useful the way that these historic high schools are repurposed, such as the historic Southside High School the Moton High School in Prince Edward County, Virginia, the Carver High School building located in Chester, Virginia, the Ralph Bunche School. Here is Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School for Innovation located in Lawrence in Lynchburg, Virginia. And of course, here is Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School. And if you can see this in Washington, D.C., it says Paul Lawrence Dunbar is the first high school to serve African Americans in the United States. And that is simply not a truthful fact. All right.
Thank you so very much.
And so that's it. I know I don't have much time, but that's just it. The way that I end this story, we continue to talk about Peabody. We continue to talk about the R story of Peabody. We continue to talk about Black high schools across America and all that goes with educating Black folk in America. And this is what the 1920 Peabody building looks like. Only this building stands. This building burnt down in 1967. And of course, this is the old Harris Hall in Virginia State. So with that, I thank you. And I'm going to stop sharing now.
Thank you so very much for the presentation. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you again for sharing that information. Let me
As a matter of fact, I'll make the slides available and also a link so that you can see my musical montage about Peabody High School.
Okay, thank you so very much. If it's okay, I'm gonna allow Brother Alkebu-lan to go ahead and do a presentation and then questions, or would you like questions now? Because I know you had some time constraints. Would you? So how?
No, he can go and I can stay on.
Okay, wonderful. So Brother Alkebu-lan, are you ready?
Yes, I'm glad Brother Lewis came before me because I too am an historian, not historian, historian. And I'm glad he explained the time frame between Peabody, Dunbar, and Armstrong. You got to get the language right. For example, in Richmond, the first charter Black bank in the United States is the Grand Fountain United Order of True Reformers. That's before Mega Walker, that's before Tulsa, Oklahoma, but it's not the first to open its doors. So you got to get the language right when you talk about Armstrong, Dunbar, and Peabody. I'm going to talk about Armstrong High. I'm a graduate of Armstrong High. I changed my name in 1991, which would make me 33 years old. Actually, I'm twice that age, a little more than that. So you cannot start from the time I changed my name. You have to look at my birth certificate. Same with Armstrong. You cannot start in 1909 when it changed its name. You got to go back to its founding. Armstrong was founded before slavery was abolished in the United States. Slavery was abolished 1865. It had to be ratified by 3/4 states. That was December 1865. Armstrong was founded September 1865, 3 months before slavery was abolished. And I was telling a young elder that today. I'm an elder too, but this guy's 90 years old. And I was telling him how old Armstrong was. He didn't believe it. When you tell us to go to school, I'm sure you didn't mean for us to bring back the same old lies we're told to you. So I'm going to keep the record straight. I'm going to show proof how old Armstrong is. Exhibit A. I'm new to this technology, so I hope I do it right. Exhibit A. Share. Good. Exhibit A. So a lot of time I talk, I'm way out there, so I have to substantiate. So this is from the State Library. And I knew Armstrong was founded in 1865, but I wanted it in writing. So I contacted the Library of Congress. My birth name is Alkebu-lan. So here's her response to me. Thank you for your telephone call and email regarding Armstrong High School. According to the history of Armstrong High, in an undated student handbook, the school was founded September 1865 by the Freedmen's Bureau, which Brother Lewis just said just now. The U.S. Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands was a federal agency created after the Civil War. We have purchased their records on microfilm, but they are indexed. We do not search nor copy federal records in our collection, but you can come look through them if you like. There are records for the Freedmen's Bureau Superintendent of Education for the state of Virginia, 1865 to 1870. The microfilm reel numbers are miscellaneous reels, and it goes on, and scroll down to the bottom. Archive Reference Service to Library of Virginia, 800 East Broad Street. Exhibit B from the Armstrong High School website. Armstrong High School has a very rich heritage. Founded in 1865 by the Freedmen's Bureau. The school was dedicated to the intellectual, academic, moral, and social enhancement of students. This school became known as the Colored High School, the Colored High and Normal School. At the commencement in 1876, the announcement was made that because the workers were unable to raise funds for the continuation of the work, they moved the site to the city of Richmond to be used at all times as an institution for education of Negro youth. So I'm gonna move a little further, so I won't keep reading it, but it says right here, 1909, the school was established. At first in Lee Streets, and the name was changed to Armstrong. So you can't start the timeline at the time Armstrong was changed, but you're losing 44 years. You got to go back to its birth, 1856. Some Armstrong High School notables are Maxie Robinson Jr. There was a coach at Armstrong High School, Coach Maxie Robinson Sr. This is his son, Maxie Robinson Jr. He's the first African-American broadcast network news anchor in the United States. He is the first. Here's another Armstrong notable. His brother, who just transitioned last year, Randall Robinson. He's the founder of Trans-Africa. He's very instrumental in disbanding apartheid in South Africa. He helped restore democracy in Haiti, and he helped the release of Nelson Mandela, an Armstrong graduate. Maggie Walker graduated from Armstrong, but at that time, Armstrong was called the Richmond Colored Normal School. She was a teacher and a businesswoman. She taught 3 years at the Valley School. She became both the first African-American woman to chart a bank in the United States and the first African woman president to serve as a bank. Here is her high school diploma. Her Richmond Colored Normal School, which later in 1909 became Armstrong High School. She got this 1883. Another alumni is Virginia Estelle Randolph, was an American educator in Renewal High School. You got Douglas Wilder. Douglas Wilder is not the first African-American governor of a state. He is the first to be elected. He is the first to serve as governor of a state since Reconstruction. But the first one was not Douglas Wilder, but he is the first to serve as the governor of the state since Reconstruction. And Diane Walker, we graduated together. She's a Hall of Fame investigative journalist for NBC 12, On Your Side, and Fox News. So Armstrong High has a glorious history. It's up to us to tell our story. We have to first know our story ourselves and then get it correct. And I will pass it on to the next speaker for time's sake, Sister Monica.
Let's give Brother Kevin
Stop share.
applause and thank you all so very much. I'll just kind of just piggyback on some of the comments, and then if you all have any questions or guests, I look forward to it. Just raise your hand, and we'll if you're not already unmuted, we'll help you to get unmuted. But I found these conversations so wonderful, so fascinating in my exploration of these spaces and places. First, for example, First Baptist Church being the first site of Peabody High School. I went to visit, and there were like 5 historic markers around that church. It was amazing to just go visit, and one of them had to do with the Virginia Voters League, which tied me back to Hickory Hill because one of the principals of Hickory Hill, one of the most famous principals of Hickory Hill, um, was one of the founders of the Virginia Voters League. And then there was the Peabody Historic Marker, part of the Civil Rights Education Trail. So all of those things were inspirational. And thank you so much to Academies about change names, because and also Dr. Lewis about schools being named after people versus locations. So I find that interesting that Hickory Hill was actually named after a place versus a person. And in this exploration, one of the things that I discovered that Hickory Hill, although we say it is the oldest elementary school in Chesterfield, might be the oldest elementary school in Virginia. So if you do a basic basic Google search, it seems like Hickory Hill was founded in 1850, so it goes back quite a ways. And it beats that Google search. So just interesting kind of facts. But I think they're very important in an age where we're building new schools and reducing the size of libraries and limiting the access to libraries in lieu of basketball courts, for example. Being a teacher and being a substitute teacher, I've gone around to many schools and noticed that in the construction of schools, like the libraries are going away. And so I guess, maybe that's why I'm very interested in making sure, as it has been articulated, and we're so grateful for these 2 presentations about education and history. So I see a couple of questions coming across. Let's see, here's some questions from Brother Christopher Green. How and where does somebody mentioned repurposing, and how and where does that process start?
I'll try to answer that. First, take a look in chat. I just wanted to share this with everybody. In chat, do you see where I have put Peabody High School video tribute? And there's a link there. At some point, copy and paste that and enjoy the 10-minute musical historical video I put together for Peabody High School. I'm kind of proud of it. It's gotten over 1,200 views so far. So I'm pretty proud about that. But it's very frustrating, and when you don't take time to be straightforward, you get acid reflux and you get gas, and then you can't put the words out. And so, full disclosure, we have some city leaders who want to take our Peabody campus and turn it into apartment complexes and turn it into a loft apartment. That's what they want to do. And they want to do that so that they have ways of
Build
public.
a website in 2 minutes, 38 seconds using AI. Just add
Was that you?
That
Do
was
I? Oh, okay. Well, but some localities get it. You need to go to your city council meetings. You need to find your delegates to the state legislature. You need to find your senators of the state of Virginia, and you need to make them aware of the significance of these buildings or these concepts, and make them understand that that's why they're necessary. And you need to find ways to root out the lies. I mean, I love showing that video clip about Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, because on the one hand, they both say, oh, America is not racist. And then they both give examples of how they were discriminated against because of racism. And I just think that is just so precious that you look at them and you say, how can you talk out of both corners of your mouth that way and say 2 totally different things? We have evidence. When you have evidence, and when you have evidence, you cannot refute the evidence. And you just have to fight because nobody's going to fight for you. Those schools that you saw on my quick presentation, everybody seems to get it, Monica, and all others. They seem to get this building can be a museum, it can be a fine arts center, it can be a meeting place, It can be a Boys and Girls Club. It can be a STEMs, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So not even STEM, but STEAM center. It can be public services for the location. The very people who need social services in Petersburg, they could get on a bus and come right to the Peabody building and not have to walk up a single step because the particular part of the entry to the building is at ground level, right? But instead, they have to catch a bus way out South Crater Road to Reeves Road. If those of you familiar with it, you go down Interstate 95 past Wagner Road, where they want to build, by the way, a wonderful casino that I'm not in favor of, and they want to they want it way down there. The very people. I mean, it's like somebody in Richmond who needs to get to social services on Broad Street. They've got to go way out to Midlothian Turnpike. That's what it's like. Okay. But to answer the question, what do? You come up with a plan and you just get people who are interested. We have the Peabody Academic Learning and Development Center organization who already had a plan in place of everything they wanted to do with the organizational structure for the Peabody building. And we've just been in a legal battle with the city. So I hope I didn't go on too much to answer your question, but that's what you do.
No, thank you for being strong and being in a legal battle, because sometimes that's what it takes. That's what it took for many of the leaders. Period. 1955 Brown versus Board of Education. Virginia voters.
54. Mm-hmm.
And Hickory Hill teachers equalizing teacher pay. That's what it took, but for some reason we're a little bit skeptical of it.
I
So
see the entry about Charlottesville. That's exactly right. The Jefferson, I think it was Jefferson High School, not Jefferson Elementary School. I could be wrong, but it was Jefferson School, and they have turned it into a museum, a community center, everything right there.
Mhm. And thank you so much for that wonderful answer. And now I'm going to encourage more interactive interaction. I want to thank all the participants for being here and listening. We want to give you an opportunity also to join in and share the collective community wisdom in answering the other two questions that we have here. One of them is, how do we cultivate and nurture future historians and guardians of the history of Peabody, Armstrong, and Hickory Hill? Don't forget, we're here about Hickory Hill. I didn't give a real history spiel, but that's, let me real quickly talk about Hickory Hill and the fact that Hickory Hill, the graduates had to travel almost 25 miles to and from their schools. Hickory Hill is known to be in Chesterfield, but they went all the way down to Virginia State, some of them, and some students came from Virginia State all the way up to Hickory Hill, which was also known as the County Training School. And like I said, it may be one of the oldest schools in Virginia, and this is a wonderful history. So I'm not going to go into the history here today, but to answer this question, because I think it's very important, audience, how can we cultivate and nurture future historians and guardians of the history of our schools? Anybody like to take that on?
I'll start by saying be inquisitive. Have always encouraged children to be inquisitive and always make sure you tell them the unsugar-coated truth about situations. Because when you don't tell them the truth, they don't know. I teach at Virginia State University, and I'll tell you this, I always involuntarily chuckle when I'm driving along Dupee Road back out to Colonial Heights Boulevard, and I see Black students just casually walking up and down Colonial Heights Boulevard or Dupee Road. Because I grew up in Petersburg, I am 64 3/4 years old, and I remember how Colonial Heights treated Black folk. And you just didn't walk in Colonial Heights if you were Black. You barely drove through Colonial Heights. If you did, you were driving to Richmond because you certainly weren't going to stop in Colonial Heights unless you worked in somebody's kitchen or unless you worked in somebody's yard as their gardener. And so, yes, that is correct. about what Colonial Heights was called. But now to see it, if I were to stop some of those students today and tell them, they would look at me like I was crazy because they have no context of history. And that's what you do. And I don't think you do it to indoctrinate them to dismiss everybody else's history. But you must tell our story. Don't talk about his story. Talk about our story. You saw the title of my presentation, the Our Storic Perspective of Peabody High School. Because if we don't tell our story, it will be either diminished or wiped out. Uh, so I hope that answers that question to some.
Brother Bloom,
Yeah.
that's your last question to make a statement. Go ahead.
You acknowledge me?
Um, Christopher Bloom.
Oh, Christopher, go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you, Dr. Lewis. I appreciate that. My name is Christopher Rashad Green. I'm a community organizer in Petersburg and Richmond areas. And yeah, I posed a question about the guardians because I know in our society is like now it's like everything is monetized. It's like you got to try to see how we can monetize everything, even like career choices for students in our universities. And like you shared, I was cultivated. My mother actually got me interested in history, so I've always loved history ever since I was a child. And so that's the dilemma I see is like how do we um, get our, I think it starts in our elementary schools and high schools, which again, we critical race theory, trying to even get our story into the curriculum is challenging that I found. But I think it starts at the beginning. You have to expose them, like you said, to the truth and constantly cultivate our students. I wish I could be a part of like our elementary school or part of that curriculum piece where I had a magic wand and was like change everything. It's like, no, this is what's really happening. Even when I was a child, they didn't want to talk about our indigenous people. I used to question our history teachers, and they were reluctant. Didn't really want to talk about the indigenous history of this country. So I like, and it's still going on today. So I just wanted to share that and try and think of any kind of way, insights that we can change that narrative around how important our history is. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for those comments. I just, if I may just respond to that, and one of the earlier slides that I pulled up, it struck me. What I did was highlight some of the presidents going back to from 1850, 1870, 1900s, them early when these schools were evolving. The things that were going on at that time frame were very interesting. But one of the things that I found very interesting was that despite all of that, despite it being before the Civil War, despite it being during enslavement, despite the Fugitive Act, despite banning learning, Nat Turner time, we were still doing our thing. We were still developing labor unions and organizing banks and the like. So we've always been proactive, and that's just, I guess that's just where we'll have to continue to go. Welcome any other conversation before we close out the program?
Oh, I had my hand up, did I?
All right, go right ahead.
Yeah, I saw the word how do we cultivate, and that bring my book to mind. My book is titled Divorce Western Culture, Not Your Mate. And why I did that is because we have been attacked in all manner of people's culture. Some people say if we get our economic program together, everything will be fine. Well, tell that to the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They had their economic program together. And some say if we get our political agenda together, we'll be fine. Well, we had a black president. The truth of the matter is they didn't leave any stones unturned. They attacked us in all manner of people's culture, history, politics, economics, social order, creativity. You should be versed in all those areas. So before we go into the school system, we gotta make sure we know our own history, our politics, our economics, our social order, black psychology, black creativity, which is arts, music, dance, drama, literature. We have to know it all. Now I know a sister that's in Philadelphia, and she went to the guidance counselor and found out that the students get credit for community work. And so what she did was taught them their history. She showed them certain sites in Philadelphia, like we could do in Richmond, and let the children do the tour. Let them do the tour, and they got credit for it. But I don't spend a lot of time going inside the school system to try to change it. I go in there and see, can I come in here? Because I got an agenda when I come with me. and so I know some young folks now who do night schooling, been doing it for quite some time, or after school. So there's some things we do. But first of all, a lot of our elders, our parents, we got to know the information. See, and we can't just be focused on history because, like I said, we've been tagged to all manner of people's culture, and history is just one aspect of people's culture. You got 79 aspects of people's culture: the history, religion, political organization, economic organization, social organization, creativity, which is arts, music, dance, drama, literature, and psychology. So we got to be versed in all those areas, not just one area. Because you might be having it together in one area, and they could shoot you in the foot in another area.
Well, I think Brother Academies gave us the keys. What y'all think? So that's awesome. Somebody was asking again, what's your title, please? The title of your book?
Divorce Western culture, not your mate. So often, and I've made the same mistake. So often, a sister will blame a brother for his shortcomings, and a brother will blame a sister for her shortcomings. When the root cause of our problem is the culture alien to us. And every aspect of people's culture is not ours. it's their history. Like I like when Brother Lewis said, "Our story." I don't call myself a historian; it's our story. So we have to change the names. And I even got to the point where Richmond is no longer Richmond, Virginia. Is Gabriel Prosser, Gabriel quote unquote Prosser City, and we have to start renaming things based on us. And when I think of Petersburg, I think about Vernon Jones and other people who walk that area. So we got to be straight first before we go in school try to get somebody else to corporate agenda. Brother Christopher hands up, Veronica.
Okay.
Does that mean, brother, we need to start building our own schools again?
Yeah.
Having our own institutions?
That's why we're here, because we have the institutions. They are blocking us from our own institutions.
And Monica,
Institution.
if I could just say, along with that, when a lot of these Black schools were first started, they were managed by white principals and they were taught by white teachers. And again, one of those words that I put forth, petition, in Petersburg, the Black folk of Petersburg had to petition the school board to hire Black teachers to teach Black students. And then they had to petition the school board to ask Black principals, or ask Black men, typically then, to be the principals. Because it was status quo that just because it was a school for Black children, you didn't have any Black teachers. And so the children were being taught what the power structure wanted to teach them. When I was growing up, and I wondered, why do we have Black History Month? Because when I was studying history, I never saw the contributions that Black folk made. I learned that, in day-to-day conversations, but it wasn't in the school system. So that's all.
Thank you. And I'm just going to jump in and give these facts about Hickory Hill, because there were other examples where you had Black teachers and you had Black principals and you had Black people who purchased the land for the school, but they did have to petition the school board, right? Still, but there is, the point is, and I'm so happy for this discussion, because the point is we have to know our history, right? We have to delve into it. And so with that, it's 7:04, and we want to be respectful of everybody's time and commitment to this conversation. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined, and give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Thank you to the speakers for carrying history one of my key things is that the one person, one leader can't do it. It has to be community. Everybody has to play their part, right? We can't just, drop it on somebody's lap and say they'll do it or she'll do it or he'll do it. But I really want to thank the people who were interested and decided to join this evening. And so, again, thank you so very much. And thank you to all the commenters and those who are present. All right. Y'all be good. Have a great one. We'll see you around.
Thank you. Thank you. And make sure you look at that Peabody video.
Thank you, Monica. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Monica. Talk to you all later.
Thank you, Monica. You should have added Maggie or Walker. I would have spoke, but next time. Okay, Mary.
Thank you. Will do.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for